What is up, everyone? This is Jungleman. I post as Chicago Joey on the 2+2 poker forums, and I am here with my first YouTube video in quite a long time, and also the inaugural version of my new podcast. And what we're going to be doing here probably... Yeah. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to High Stakes PLO podcast, the type of video that I started with a long time ago, way back in the day, and we haven't done one for a while. The great game of Pot Limit Omaha, and 4 cards instead of 2's been calling my name. It said, Joey, when are you going to talk about me? You keep talking about fucking tournaments. You keep talking about 2-card hold'em. What about me, baby? What about your lover, PLO, Pot Limit Omaha, the great game of Pot Limit Omaha? I said, you know what, Poppy? Let's do it, man. Let's make a video. Here we are, Saturday morning, new High Stakes PLO podcast. Guys, in this episode, we're going to have some fun hands from some of our podcast favorites, including Ike Haxton, including Dani Stern, a.k.a. Supernova 9, including D to the MFI. We also got a Jungleman hand thrown in there, and we even get some 5-card PLO action between Dani Stern and Berri Sweet, the mysterious Swede from, guess what, Sweden. So, before we get into it, if you guys haven't seen the podcast, the last couple of weeks we had Phil Galfond on, we had Dan Negreanu on, and we had Viffer on. And Viffer, whew, he told some fun stories. All 3 of those podcasts, great in their own way. You can check them out on my YouTube channel or on iTunes. Search for Poker Life. Coming up next week, we're going to have 6 straight days of DFS podcasts as well, with some of the best DFS players in the world, in addition to some of the best analysts in the world. And also, guys, make sure you check out my new site, onepokerlife.com. It'll be a hub for all of my content, in addition to a very large categories of varying poker content to be decided that's currently in my head. So go check that out. And man, let's get into this episode. Let's see what we got. It's been a while since we've been here, man. You know what? I missed it. I missed the great game of PLO. I missed talking PLO. I missed it a lot. So let's see what we got here. We'll start off with the biggest winners and biggest losers for the year. So this is going to have, this isn't all the tracked hands. It kind of gives us a representation of what exactly is happening, but it's certainly not accurate. And I mean, look at these numbers, guys. It's fucking pitiful. You know, we're 6-7 months in the year. PokerStars has attempted to kill the great game of Pot Limit Omaha. They've attempted to kill high stakes action. They're trying to kill our game, man. We got to fight them. We got to bring it back. We got to try to make PLO survive. So we look at this list. I mean, I don't even know if this is a very accurate list. Obviously, High Stakes database, they only track certain stakes as well. I don't know if they compile all the games into one. But according to this, allegedly, Dani Stern up the most amount of money at the PLO game this year, $373,000. We got Isildur 1 up there with $277. Ike Haxton, a.k.a. Phil Ivy, 2694. Sauce 123, Bad Reg, Jason Mercy up in the mix as well. I can't even give this list any credit. I don't even want to look at the list no more. Let's take a look at the biggest losers. I mean, there's no chance. There's someone's got to be down more than this. But tell me, I don't listen. I can't give these lists any credibility. Let me see who's on the list. Mr. Ubeen. I think he just took. Oh, WCG Ryder down there. How bad is he? 60. Come on, WCG Ryder, man. I thought he was the best player in the world at 1 cent. He can't beat 1 cent, 2 cent. He can't beat PLO. According to 13 sessions, 791 hands. Yeah, I don't think that's true. I think Doug's probably a winning Pot Limit Omaha player. So let's get into the first hand. Let's see what we got here. All right, we're going to start off with a couple 3-handed hands and some plays being made. You know what? Times have changed, guys. Times have changed. Since the last High Stakes PLO episode, if you would have told me Stickman, the big Russian bum hunter, one of the people who invented bum hunting, was playing 3-handed 100-200 with Berri Sweet and Jungleman, I'd have said, who's playing his account? That's what I would have told you. And I got to be honest, I'm still going to say who's playing his account. But after I see this play, I don't know what's happening. All right, let's take a look at the hand. So the 3-handed, they start a hand about 80 big blinds effective. Jungleman opens the button with King 10, 8, 9 double suited. What a beautiful hand. Stickman 3-bets with Queen 10, Jack 9. And Jungleman calls in position. The flops King, King, Queen. Jungleman flops trip kings with a 10 kicker. Stickman's got Queen, Jack 9, 10, so he's got a bottom wrap, and he also blocks King, Queen, blocks pocket queens as well. So he chooses to continuation bet 1,300 to 4,500. So what you guys are going to notice is the bet sizing tendencies have kind of shifted now over the past year. Before, you wouldn't really ever see people choosing this 1/4 bet size in a lot of spots, but now it seems to be from some of the high stakes action. It hasn't quite gotten over to the American sites and all the untracked Euro sites. There are some regulars that are playing this style a little bit more, but for the most part, it's something that I don't know how common it is right now in the PokerStars high stakes heads up games, but from the hands that I saw for August, it appears that this is kind of a trend, and maybe it's just on certain board textures as well. But yeah, we'll kind of see if we can, maybe we pick something up when we go over the 9 hands we got here. So flops King, King, Queen. Stickman bets 1,300 into 4,500, and Jungleman calls with his trip kings. Turns a 4, so it's King, King, Queen, 4. Stickman checks. Jungleman bets 3,200 into 7,100, so a little under half pot. And Stickman goes for the old stick maneuver and puts in a min raise. And Jungleman calls. So Jungle still got trip kings. Stickman's got the Queen Jack 10-9. So he min raises, Jungle calls. The river's a 7. Offsuit 7. Flush draw misses. Straight draw misses. Stickman checks. Jungleman checks his trip kings back. Now let's take a look at this hand. 3-bet pre-flop. Obviously, it seems pretty fine. Flop bet sizing here, I think is good. Flop play, good. Seems like a spot where you're going to want to bet. You got Queen Jack 10-9. How bad can it be, right? Obviously, I don't know if there's long-term dynamics in place here between Stickman and Jungleman, where Stickman's trying to play his range a certain type of way. I just can't imagine these guys are playing many hands together. Times have really, listen, there's no fucking chance Stickman's playing 3-handed on a regular basis with any good players. Most good players aren't playing 3-handed on a regular basis. I'm sure that this game may have broke. Maybe Stickman was a little bit tilted or stuck, or I'm trying to generate a scenario in my head where how this ever makes sense, where this 3 people are playing heads up or 3-handed, but I just can't do it. So, especially Stickman's in the big blind, so that means he could have sat out his big blind. But turn is where shit gets weird, guys. So Jungleman bets his trip kings. Obviously, he's betting for value, betting to protect his hand. I don't know what the fuck Stickman. Okay, so Stickman has an option. Should he bet the turn? Should he check call the turn? Should he check raise the turn? Should he check fold the turn? I think betting the turn is fine as well. I think Jungleman, once you choose this $1,300 sizing on the flop, you're going to be getting called by almost all flush draws, almost all gut shots, most queens, most kings. Just random pure bluffs, backdoor clubs, backdoor 8, 9, 7, 8, 9. You're just going to be getting called by a bunch of random hands because and I'm sure Jungleman probably doesn't have much respect for Stickman's game, so he thinks that he's going to be able to outplay him post-flop in later streets and be able to take the pot away from him, so he might just call with almost any 4 cards. So you're going to need to realize that on the turn, your opponent's range is going to be still incredibly wide. So Stickman checks, Jungleman bets 1,300. I like the sizing. I think he could do that with all of his hands. He's trying to take a steady call with on the flop here. And Stickman min raise. I just don't know what he's doing. I don't know if he's it doesn't make sense. Why would you min raise? Okay, let's say hypothetically he's bluffing. I don't know what he's doing. Is he bluffing? Is he trying to get hidden value from the king high flush, queen high flush? Jack high flush draw? I just don't know what's happening here. I don't know what's happening here. We are live streaming this live on Twitch at the same time, but I'm not going to try to pay too much attention to the comments. But Dark Fang said, I really like that 1/4 to 1/3 bet size in these paired boards on the flop. People just call with all kind of crap just trying to bluff you later. I do it all the time. Yeah, that's pretty much what happens on the American sites, the untracked Euro sites, is that people are just going to float you so much. Especially the more they disrespect your game, the more they're going to float you. So Stickman decides to combat this by min raise. I don't know if he wants Jungleman to spaz out, shove all in. He wants to call it off. He wants to induce on the Listen, I'm not going to pay too much fucking close attention to this hand. All I know is the river went check, check. Stickman... Anything's possible, guys. Anything's possible this day and age. Next hand, let's get into this. This is from an 8-game hand, 100, 200. It's between Chao Ren, one of the Mikkel, one of the biggest winners, debatably, of all time. Allegedly, debatably. Depends who you ask. Jungleman and Sam Rustin. Sam Rustin still playing in the games, man. Shout out to him. So Chao Ren opens the button, makes it 600. Both players call. Let's take a look at the... Okay. The hands are going to be relevant here. So Jungleman calls a small blind with King, Queen, Jack 8, with King, Jack of Spades. Rustin overcalls with Ace 10, 7, 3 with 3 clubs. All pretty standard plays. The flop's Ace 10, 5. So Jungleman flops a Korean inside wrap with a backdoor spade draw, and Sam Rustin flops top 2 pair. So goes check check. Chao Ren continuation bets about a little over half pot. Jungleman puts in a raise. He makes it 2,800. Sam Rustin calls, and Chao Ren calls. So the pot's pretty big. The pot's 10,200. 10,200 on the turn. So things get interesting. Turn is a jack. So Jungleman hits the Caribbean. He hits the Caribbean straight. Rustin. So Jungleman checks. Sam Rustin bets half pot, or a little over half pot. Yeah, a little over half pot. With his Ace 10. So Ace 10, 7, 3. The turn's a jack. So I mean, I guess he's trying to get Jungleman off Ace 10 too, which would be my guess. I mean, I guess when Sam does overcall there, he could have a set of 5s, he could have a set of 10s, he could have, I might just call it a set of 10s. Yeah, he could have a, whatever the opposite of a Caribbean straight is, the 2, 3, 4 here, he could have something like that. He could have Ace 2, 3, 4, he could have, but his most likely hand's probably some type of straight draw hand as well too. Because Jungleman might think that Sam would 4-bet on the flop with his Ace 10 type hands. So I guess Sam's kind of turning his hand into a bluff here, trying to get Jungleman off a shared Ace 10. And he bets a little over that. Jungleman check calls. Now the river, man, this hand gets even wonkier. So the river's an ace. So the board fills up. Ace, Ace, Jack, 10, 5. So Rustin River's a full house. Got the second best full house, and Jungleman still got the straight. Jungleman decides to shove all in. So he goes all in. He puts Sam all in for a little less than half pot. Pot's 21,000. Sam's got 11,000. And so Jungleman, I guess Jungleman is thinking that they most likely have the same hand. I mean, I guess it's obviously what he's thinking. They have the same hand. He's repping Ace 10, Ace 5, set of aces. Or not really set of aces. Set of 10, set of 5s, potentially set of aces. Or Ace Jack. So he's trying to get him off a chop, and I mean, the hand makes sense. The hand definitely makes a lot of sense. I can understand what both players were thinking in the hand, and it would have worked, I think, if Sam would have had a straight. And yeah, I like the play. I think it's a good play. I think it's an interesting play. I think the turn bet's probably a spot that a lot of regulars out there who aren't very good don't ever think about bluffing. So no one really thinks about taking the Ace 10 and turn it into a bluff in the turn. They're like, all right, I'm going to check back. All right, let's see the river. Whereas a lot of times in this spot, you could bet the turn, and then if the river's a 3, you could bet the river. So it's like most people don't. The big thing that makes better PLO players better than other people. That was a lot of strat, actually. But the ability to bluff in spots that you wouldn't normally bluff in is something that's going to make you a better PLO player. And that's what the best PLO players are doing. I don't think people realize that. Like, I mean, I feel like I've been doing things like that for a couple of years now, but it just seems like on the like the Bovada games, well, I guess, you don't see that very often. Although you just see less bluffing overall, it feels like on Bovada. Most people are playing pretty straightforward, and there's more fun players, so you don't necessarily have to take these higher variance spots, because a spot like this is kind of a high variance. It's a higher variance situation because you don't have these strong hands, you're putting a lot of money in, and against weaker players, especially on Bovada, you don't necessarily need to do things like this. Whereas I feel like on PokerStars or on, I mean, I guess mainly PokerStars is like the main competition. It's like everyone's trying to win the pots against you. Like, people are always trying to battle. There's really no easy money to be made. So you have to get creative. You have to figure out ways. All right, like how can I beat these guys? And when I say only poker stars, I mean this. It seems like on the other Unchecked Hero sites, on like America's Card Room, it's just much different, and the dynamics are much different, and yeah, you don't see it yet, but I imagine it's going to start going there as people, aren't playing on stars anymore because of the rake and all that stuff like that. So we spent too much time on this. Let's get into the next hand. All right, we got a couple hands here with D to the MFI and Ike Hollywood Haxton playing it heads up. Is that Ike Haxton music? You hear that? No, I kind of hear it a little bit. All right, let's take a look. Mr. Nice says, isn't Phil Ivey's hand nuts here? Why didn't he raise? Or does Ace Jack, for example, beat him here? Let's take a look. 100, 200 heads up. 150 big blinds deep. Hollywood opens King Jack 6-6. No suit. D to the MFI 3 bets Ace Ace Queen 4 with 1 suit. Gets a call. Flops King Queen 10. 2 hearts. So D to the MFI flops blockers to the nuts. He also flops a backdoor, 2 backdoor quad draws, a nut flush draw, and a gut shot. And Phil Ivey, Ike Haxton, I just can't call him Ike. I can't call him that. Look at his name. So he flops top pair with an open end straight draw and backdoor quad draw, 2 backdoor quad draws. So as you can see, that small bet size is going to infect here. He bets 1,295 into 4,320. Hollywood goes ahead and calls, turns an ace. So he turns trips, ace, king, queen, 10, 2 flush draws there on the turn. He decides to bet again, 2,000 into 7,000, and Hollywood calls. River's a 7, so ace, king, queen, 10, 7, any jack wins. D to the MFI bets 3,300 into 11,000, and Hollywood just calls with the nuts. So I think we can talk about the hand, but I think Hollywood just calls here because he might want to see what exactly D to the MFI is taking, what he's taking this line with in this spot. So if he knows that D to the MFI is going to be doing this with a hand like ace ace for top set, then that might make him less inclined to want to call with a 2-pair type hand in the future. So now, let's say he's got king queen, or let's say he's got it could block the other ace, but I think that kind of changes things. So let's say he's got king queen or king 10 or some hand like that, and it sort of depolarizes D to the MFI's range on the river. So if D to the MFI is also betting top set, he's betting the straights, he might be betting a set of kings, he might be betting a set of queens. So now if he's got this precedent set where he's betting more hands for value on the river with this sizing, it kind of gives him potential more of a chance to want to bluff this river as well in the future too. So, and from Phil Ivey's spot, I think he just maybe wants to see what his hand is. He doesn't think he's going to get called by worse, although could be a spot where he actually does get called by worse because he could get called by a set of aces. So now in the future, maybe Hollywood's going to be more inclined to want to not call for information, which is basically calling for information in this spot. So now he kind of has a feel for maybe what D to the MFI is doing in this spot. So now in the future, he can raise. But at the same time, he got the nuts. I feel like he might have missed out on some value here, especially with 2 flush draws missing. I feel like he definitely could have missed out on some value here in this spot. But yeah, it's an interesting hand. It's something interesting to think about in terms of the sizings. I think a lot of people can look at these sizings and potentially, consider how can I apply these sizings to my own games, because, it's interesting. He's betting 2,000 into 7,000 on a turn. It's just not a very standard sizing for the most part. And then the river choosing to go with $3,300 into $11,000. This is how you get better at poker, guys. You watch what the best players are doing, and then you try to figure out why they're doing what they're doing, and then why it works again, what kind of ranges, why it works against that type of player. Obviously, some of these things you have more information to than others. You may have watched the match, you may see the dynamic. When we're only watching this one hand, this is all we really have to go off of, and maybe some other hands. But, that's how you get better, is the more work you put into paying attention, that's the better you're going to get. So, if you're a heads-up player, if you play a lot of short-handed, even if you play a lot of 6-max PLO in general, watching these matches, watching these hands, really taking a look, all right, so let me watch more. So now you got a couple D to the MFI versus Hollywood Haxton hands. So now okay, let's take a look at 100 of them. Let's take a look at 50 of them. Obviously, the people that are doing better are looking at 100. They're looking at 50. They really want to know what they're doing, why they're doing it. So now you see this spot, you see that he maybe did this. Now you think about applying it to your own game. Think about the ranges you can put it into. You think about the kind of ranges you might want to take this line with against what type of players. So that's what makes poker fun, especially PLO. Next hand, let's go. D to the MFI versus Phil Ivey. Once again, about 100 big blinds deep. D to the MFI Opens the button to pot. Jack 7, 6, 8. No suit. Hollywood. Ace, king, king, jack. With ace-high spades. 3 bets. D2MFI calls. Flops queen, queen, 6. 2 clubs. So Hollywood's got the backdoor straight draw, backdoor quad draw, and overpair. And D2MFI's got jack 6, 7, 8. So he's got a 6 blocker, but backdoor straight draw, but not the strongest flop for his hand. Does have 1 club, but it's a low club. Phil Ivey bets. I can't call him motherfucker Ike Haxton when his name's Phil Ivey on the screen. Bets 1,100 and 4,400, about 1/4 pot. We're gonna assume the rake here is about $80. Fuck poker stars. D2MFI calls, turns a 7, so queen, queen, 6, 7. So now D2MFI blocks queen 6, he blocks queen 7. He has blockers to 6, 6, 7, 7. Makes it less likely that Ike Haxton's going to have a 6 or a 7 in his hand. So Ike bets 2,600 and 6,500. D2MFI puts in a small raise, makes it 3,500 more. And Hollywood calls, river's a king. Hollywood hits the full house. Kings full of queens. Checks it. D2MFI goes all in. 11,300 into 18,000, and Hollywood Haxton obviously snap calls, baby. And now we take a look at what's happening here. So I like this play by D2MFI a lot. I mean, this is something that you kind of have to have in your arsenal. And does Hollywood fold if the king doesn't come? I mean, you know, they're depending on the dynamic they have, depending on what they're thinking about the other person's game and the other person's ranges in these spots. He might fold, he might call. You know, hard to be sure exactly what the frequencies are in his spot, but I really like the play. I mean, this is kind of, I feel like this is kind of I wouldn't say standard spot though. I think there's some interesting things happening here, which is the turn raise sizing by D2MFI sets up a little bit bigger bet on the river. So if for some reason, or I'm saying, I mean, I guess not if for some reason, but if Phil Ivey does bet call the turn, then with this sizing, he's going to be put to more of a decision on the river. Whereas sometimes on the river, he might just click. Well, I guess, you know, it really depends if D2MFI, he's probably doing this with queen 6, queen 7 as well too. So from like an exploitative standpoint, that's true. But I guess just in the I mean, this is something interesting to think about, because I feel like this is something you don't really see, especially in 3-bet pots where the stack to pot ratio goes down, especially when it's only 100 big blinds deep. So D2MFI raises 3,500 on the turn. Yeah, I really like this play because let's assume he's going to be calling Hollywood Haxton's continuation bets pretty wide. He bets 1/4 pot, flush draws, backdoor straight draws, backdoor flush. I mean, pretty much all the things we said earlier about it just widens up your opponent's range so much. So I think if you want to be able to play that, like to be able to have this wide range going into the turn, you got to be able to do plays like this. You got to be able to bluff raise. So now Hollywood, you know, he bets the flop. He knows that D2MFI is calling with a wide range, so he's going to be betting the turn pretty wide as well himself. But now when D2MFI starts raising him $3,500 here on the turn, it sets up this spot. It makes it really hard to play against. You can get really tricky, and then it just comes down to how well you can balance this, how well you can figure out what the other person's doing better than what they're doing, better than what they think what they know they're doing. And it's fun, man. I feel like this is some good stuff. And then on the river, I feel like it's just a pretty normal bet from D2MFI, especially with the turn. I mean, you want to follow through here, and he got unlucky that Hollywood just happens to make kings full, but at the same time, he still might have called. So next hand, let's get into it. We got one hand with Donnie playing lot nice heads up. I gotta say, some of these lot nice first Donnie hands, lot nice living in some questionable place here, puppies. I'm not sure, I don't know if what he's been doing, but I gotta say. So this hand, I think, is like a good example of something you saw more often a couple years back. I feel like you don't see this too often now. So Donnie raises, they're 100 big blinds deep, opens ace king 2-6 double suited. Lot nice 3-bets, deal jack 9 6-7 double suited with the jack 9 of spades, 6-7 of hearts, which looks like a much better hand than it is. But I feel like it. I can't say for sure if it's a standard 3-bet by a lot of players, by a lot of good players, but I mean, it can't be that bad double suited, right? How bad can it be? I mean, pre-flop is 49% against that hand, so how bad can it be, right? Flops king 9-5. So lot nice has middle pair, backdoor spade draw, backdoor straight draw, gut shot straight draw, Gut shot, straight flush draw. Bang, bang. Oh my god. Holy fuck. Oh, let me take back my initial thoughts in this hand. So Donnie flops top pair with second nut flush draw. A lot of nice checks instead of continuation betting. Donnie bets a little under half pot. No, about half pot exactly. And a lot of nice decides to check pot here, but essentially check jam all in. So in his spot, he can continuation. I mean, this is kind of what happens. So when you 3-bet the jack 9 6 7, you're gonna end up flopping a lot of 9. Like you're gonna end up getting in a lot of these situations where even when you get all in, like you never really have too strong of a hand. You're never really crushing your opponent in this spot. And I guess that matters some, but it might matter a little bit more than to some people than other people. What I mean by that is some people are just better playing post-flop. Some people are better identifying how their opponents are playing. Therefore, they can 3-bet a little bit wider range, whereas people who are weaker post-flop, who are making more weak decisions, typically want to have a stronger range pre-flop of hands they're going to be 3-betting in this spot. Because otherwise they end up in spots like this where they flop 9 high with the gut shot straight flush draw, and they end up putting a lot of money in, and they put in 11 big blinds pre-flop, they put in 90 big blinds in the flop, and they end up getting it in with 38%. Now, 38% might seem like a lot of equity, but at the same time, keep getting in with 38%, you're going to be broke pretty fucking quick. Or you're going to run up some sick fucking heaters and put your opponent on tilt and make them make bad plays in the future and then be able to capitalize on that. I see both sides I see a case being both sides. I got to be honest with you guys. Yeah, I think in this spot, how bad can it be, right? How bad can it be? Just look at his options. So he can better check. I feel like betting here is probably more of the standard approach. And if you do get raised, then you can make a decision. Then I think you have to, depends on what sizing you go with. Depends on what you're going to do if you get raised or not. But then it kind of comes down to a math problem. And when you get called, you can obviously barrel a lot of turns, especially like, let's say he bets the flop, the turn's the 4. Well, now he turns an open-ended straight draw. In addition to a flush draw, obviously now he can just pop the turn. But when he kind of takes this line, it's sort of, he ends up getting it all in on the flop. And, I mean, obviously he does get fold, but at the same time, I think that the amount of times he ends up getting it all in here is just... I mean, I guess maybe... I'm just trying to think about a small angle. So... when he check raises here and he shows down this hand, maybe he thinks that, it just doesn't seem that good of a play. Doesn't seem that good of a play. They run it twice, they chop it anyway, so. Nice hand, Poppy, nice hand. Alright, we got 5-card PLO hands. Now, I don't think I've ever actually played 5-card PLO. Well, I played 5-card PLO live one time, or a couple times down in Florida, but yeah, let's see these hands here. So 100-200 between Berri Sweet and Dani Stern. I love this, man. I love this. This is a lot of fucking cards. Jesus Christ. Okay. 100 big blinds deep. How are we gonna read this hand? Okay. Donnie opens the button. Queen Jack 7-5-5, double suited. Berri Sweet calls King 9-9-2-3 with King High of Diamonds. Wow, these are some crazy fucking hands. King 9-9-2-3 isn't a favorite. I mean, I guess that makes sense. Queen Jack, that's double. Okay, the one hand's double suited. I'm gonna try guessing the equities and not look at. I'm gonna try not to look at the equity pre-flop. I'm gonna try to just guess what I think they are versus each other pre-flop in these following hands. So opens calls, flops Jack 9-3, 2 hearts. Donnie flops top pair, 7 high flush draw. He checks back. Berri Sweet flops middle set. Turns a 5. Puts a backdoor spade out. Puts backdoor spades out there. So Jack 9-5-3, 2 flush draws. Berri Sweet pots it with his middle set, and Ansky pots it with his turned third set. And now Berri Sweet calls. Now this is where I started to really think about this hand. So this is interesting because Berri Sweet has middle set. He's got no spades and he's got 2 hearts in his hand. He also doesn't block any straight draw cards. So I think that he calls here for 2 reasons. One is that I need to run equities to know this for sure. He might think that his set of 9s is actually a coin flip or behind. against the hands that Ansky might have here with his combo flush draw, straight draws. And I've never really run equities for this, so I can't be 100% sure if that's the case or not. And so he thinks he wants to see a safe river card. He might also think that when he just calls here, it makes his hand look like a draw. So he might induce from Ansky on the river with his misdraws. I mean, he's never bluffing. It also sort of makes him harder to play against. I think they've been playing a lot. So maybe Berri feels like in this situation that if he shows Ansky he can have a set here, then that's going to maybe make Ansky less inclined to want to bluff him off in the future. So when he bet good, he pots, and he calls a turn, and now he checks the river, normally you're not going to be like, you know, on Ace of Diamonds, you're not going to put your opponent on a set. So Berri Sweet thinks if he has got a set in his range, it's just going to make him that much tougher to play against, that much more balanced. Whether he needs to be balanced in the spot, especially on the turn when it doesn't look like Ansky's going to fold, is debatable. But it might just come down to he wants to see a safe river card. Honestly, there's just so many potential cards out there that could make your opponent's hand. And I don't know. It's an interesting hand. I think Donnie plays it perfectly fine. Turns a set. Still's got a flush draw. He could think about just calling the turn as well. Kind of disguise his hand a little bit, but yeah, I feel like you're in position. You want to raise, get value for your hand. You get called by a lot worse. You get called by a lot worse two pairs. A lot of draws too. You might induce. No, I think when he pots it though, he's just never folding. Although that could not be true, but he could be folding sometimes. So I mean, I guess when you're saying induce, if you think about the induce, what are you inducing from here? You could induce from a top pair type. Like the hands you're inducing from are usually doing pretty, like they're not doing terribly against you, but at the same time you're getting in ahead. So you could think about it, but I think with the flush draw, maybe with the jack blocker, it blocks jack 9. It does block top set 2. So that might make it. I guess that might make it more of a reason to want to raise the turn then. I'm just talking out loud right now, guys. I've never really played this 5-card game, so it's sort of interesting to think about these spots, think about how the extra card changes your potential choices in the hand and how much it changes your equities. So interesting. Let's get some more hands. See you next hand. So people in the chat said it's 50-50 almost every hand with 5-card equities. Well, clearly it's not true because this hand is 61%. So it's obviously not every hand then if the next hand we see. This is what it is. Next hand, Donnie raises their 100 big blind still, 100-200. Donnie raises king, queen, jack 6 with 1 suit. My buddy Lee Jam, what's up, buddy? Queen, Berri Sweet defends, queen 5, 6, 7, 9. Man, what if so many fucking cards? 4 cards is great, but 5 cards is just a headache, guys. Holy shit. Oh my god. Am I getting a headache? Look at me. Let's see. Flops jack 8, 5. Donnie flops top pair with backdoor straight draw. And Berri Sweet flops. Whew, not even a name for this turn, boys. Is that Mexico? It looks like Mexico, yeah. Looks like he's got Mexican rap. 5, 6, 7, 9, queen. Man, he's got more than Mexico here. He's got like, so he's got bottom pair with 6, 7, 9, 10. Well, 10 gives him a nut. 10 gives him the nuts. A 4 gives him the nuts. So he doesn't got Mexico here. He's got some other kind of straight draw hand. A straight draw yet to be named. 2 of his straight draws make the nuts. Well, 3 of his straight draws make the nuts, don't they? Yeah, 7, 9. 3 of his straight draws make the nuts, yeah. 7 doesn't. 9 doesn't. Queen doesn't. So 3 of the straight draws give him the nuts. 3 of the straight draws don't give him the nuts. I guess we can call that, I don't know, like a civil straight or something? I don't know, like a civil straight draw? Like a civil war where you get split down the middle? I don't know. Let's see what happens in the hand. Ansky bets, 897. Berri Sweet calls. The turn is a 9. So here's one of those spots with Mexico, guys, where you got the third best straight and your opponent's putting a lot of pressure on you. You're never quite happy, and you know when you never feel safe when you're in Mexico. So And that's not shot at Mexico. That's just for a fact. You're Tijuana. You never truly feel safe, man. You're driving through the Mexican highways. You're not feeling very safe. And that's kind of how you feel with the Mexican Straight here. Is you're not feeling very safe when you got 6'7". You get some pressure put on you, man. I seen Narcos when they come. Well, that's Colombia, right? I seen one of those movies, Sicario or something like that, where they go down there. They go down to Mexico and they go searching for drugs. A lot of pressure put on them. They didn't feel very safe. So, Berri Sweet checks. Ansky puts the pressure on with the blockers. He also blocks 6'7", too. So, bets pot. Berri calls. River's a 4, so doesn't really change his hand at all. Checks again. Ansky pots. Berri Sweet calls. Turns over his hand. He makes it safely across the border. Back into the United States. Takes down the hand. And wins a $26,000 pot. Nice hand, Pop B. I want to give a big shout out to my buddy out in San Diego. He actually made up the Mexican straight draw. One time we were playing, stands up, slams down his hand. He's like, I got the Mexican straight. I'm like, what is this guy talking about, man? So he started telling me about the Mexican straight. He's like, when you got a bad straight, you got Mexican straight. I'm like, okay, he's being Mexican guy. I figured maybe it's just a thing down there. So. Shout out to him, man. Shout out to him. Next hand, let's see what we got here. Still at 205 card. Berri Sweet versus Dani Stern. 116 big blinds effective here. Berri Sweet opens the button with King 10, 8, 5, 4 double suited with some bad suits though. Ansky defends Ace King 6, 7, 3 double suited to the Ace High and King High suits. Flops 10, 5, 2. So Berri Sweet flops top and bottom pair with a backdoor straight draw and a backdoor straight draw. 2, 3 backdoor straight draws. 1 backdoor trip draw. Oh no, 4 backdoor trip draws. 1 backdoor quad draw. 1 backdoor flush draw. I'm kidding, I'm every time. And Donnie flops a gutter to the nut straight and 2 backdoor flush draws and a backdoor nut straight draw as well. He checks. Berri Sweet bets 900 and 1200. Ansky raises to 3142. And Berri Sweet just calls. The turn is an 8, so 10-8, 5-2. Puts a club draw out there on the turn, no. Ansky goes ahead and bets pot. Again, he turns a straight draw as well. He turns another out for a straight draw. So on the flop, he already had the 4. He turns the 9 on the river. Or I'm sorry, on the turn. Pots it. Berri Sweet calls. He's got no clubs as well, too. He pots it. Berri Sweet calls. River is a queen of diamonds. So Ansky has ace high. It's really hard to have ace high and 5-card PLO, guys. I feel like having ace high has to be one of the hardest things in the world at 5-card PLO. Actually, ace high in the rivers. Five separate cards on the board. You only have ace high. Percentages stay. Not going to be able to have that happen very often. But this is one of those rare times, and Donnie decides to risk all his chips, $12,000 into $22,000. Berri Sweet calls with the 3 pair and takes down a $46,000 pot. Let's take a look at the hand, and let's see what happens. So it seems like on the flop, this hand might be a little bit unnecessary for Ansky to have in his check raising range. I feel like, I mean, he does have the back doors. He turns a lot of cards where he can bet again, but at the same time, it seems like this just plays better as a check call. Yeah, I guess. I mean, at the same time, so what hands is Berri Sweet going to be able to continue with on the flop? So Ansky does block strong backdoor hearts and backdoor diamonds. Doesn't have any clubs in his hand. Doesn't have any 8s, 9s, jacks, queens in his hand as well too. Or he does have 7. So he's going to block some of Berri Sweet's potential straight draw hands. And he's also going to block the outs for those hands if Berri Sweet decides to check call or bet call with those. But I feel like, Berri bets. I just think there's too many hands that he can call. He's going to call the flop with. Especially if he's got a 10. If he's got a 10, he's basically never going to fold. Because even if Ansky has 10-5, which he might not be raising 10-5, he might only raise the stronger 10-5s, then Berri's going to call with any of his 10, insert cards, any 10 and 4 cards over 5. He's just going to call with them. He's got 10-2, he's going to call. He's got 10-5, he's going to call. So, it just seems like, I don't know, it seems like maybe this hand isn't that good of a hand to be check raising the flop with here. But as played, he does just check raise. And then the turn, another interesting spot. So when Berri calls, you know, what does Ansky put him on? So we already mentioned the 10x type hands. Doesn't have any clubs, so backdoor clubs is certainly something that Berri can have in this spot. Those 9-10 type hands, 9-10 jack, 9-10 queen, 7-9. So I feel like the 8 is going to make Berri Sweet enough flush draws, 2-pair type hands, combo draws now on the turn, that yeah, it's just like, I don't know. I guess this is kind of the spot when you end up check raising the flop with this weak of a hand, then you end up getting yourself into some spots in the turn where you end up potentially putting a lot of money in on the 8 here, and you end up getting a bunch of money in really, really bad. So, and it's also interesting, Berri Sweet decides to call here. So Berri Sweet just calls with his top 2 pair. He now has top 3 pairs, so he's got 10-8-5. I think most people's standard would just be to go all in, but we kind of saw that in the other hand, that Berri Sweet likes to... He really disguises his range. It seems like he calls with hands that most people would be like never want to call with. Like, oh my god, what if you know, in this spot, what if fuck, name a card, ace, 3, 4, 6, 7, 9, jack, queen, club. I mean, maybe not queen, club. Like, there's a lot of bad. He doesn't have any clubs. A lot of bad river card. He might just think, let's get the money in now, but at the same time, you know, maybe he thinks he's got no fold equity. So what hands exactly is Donnie doing this with? Like, what does he have? He has some bluffs. He has some combo. He has some weaker straight draws. Maybe he thinks that Donnie's going to fold those weaker straight draw type hands. Maybe he wants to make his range, disguise his range from the future. He doesn't always have draws here on the river, and it's quite an interesting play. And I think it's like not a very standard play at all. Most people just get overzealous on this turn, and they just want to get all the money in because they feel like they want to, you know, get value and sort of protect their hand. But yeah, it's quite an interesting thing to consider. So, and on the river, that seems incredibly fine. I feel like Donnie probably thinks Berri Sweet would raise all his value hands on the turn. So, Queen 10 definitely going to be in his range of hands, but yeah, I mean, I guess he has enough 1-pair type club hands, but I'm not sure. I mean, so what does Berri think that Donnie's gonna, like, what would Berri hero call some sort of ace 10 9, something like that type hand, 3 4, for instance. Probably got the hand on the flop, but some sort of, I mean, it's, you know, it's really hard to just pick out hands so many fucking cards. So what do you hero call ace 10 with a straight draw blocker? Thinking, what exactly does Donnie have here? So if you have a 10, that blocks some of the sets he has. He might not always check raise a set of 5s or a set of 2 on the flop. Makes it harder for him to have a set of 10s. Would he do this with 10-8? Probably not. Would he do this with 10-5? Probably not. Would he do this with 10-2? Probably not. Would he do this with 5-2? Probably not. Would he do this with Queen 10? Probably off. Probably always. Would he always bet all his Queen 10 combos on the turn? Most likely. So I don't know about the bet. Yeah, I guess this is the, you know, it's kind of like maybe a little bit more merit to think about not necessarily check raising the flop, because you end up in spots like this where you feel like you're almost forced to bluff the river, and he does, and I don't know. Listen, Donnie does it. He's top winner at PLO, man. I question nothing from Donnie, but I question everything from Donnie too at the same time. As should you guys. And that's last hand. Let's get into it. Low and last 5-card PLO hand. This one's a little deeper. 180 big blinds deep. $35,000 effective. Donnie raises with King 10 8 7 7 with the 10 8 of spades. Berri 3 bets King Jack 10 8 double suited with a pretty hand. So they're pretty deep. 180 big blinds. Donnie calls flop 7-5-3 rainbow. So Donnie flops top set, backdoor straight draw, and Berri Sweet flops an overpair with a backdoor straight draw with 2 backdoor flush draws. So he checks. Donnie bets half pot. Berri Sweet calls. Turns a 9 of diamond. So pretty exciting card. 9-7-5-3. 2 diamonds. Berri Sweet has a wrap with the 8-10 jack. He also has diamonds as well. He blocks 6-8, and he blocks high diamonds. And Donnie still has a set. He also picks up an open-ended straight draw too. So Berri Sweet checks. Donnie bets pot. And they are pretty deep, guys. Remember this. So they start the hand 180 big blinds effective. So pre-flop, 9 big blinds. Flop, 9 big blinds. So right now they got 18 big blinds in, and there's about 160 big blinds left to play for. So, interesting turn. Donnie bets pot. Berri Sweet check jams. I guess he has to think he's got fold equity here. He just has to. I guess he... Kind of a math problem again, too, though. At the same time, I mean, how bad can it really be? I think he got it in almost as bad as he possibly could here, because he's got to open a straight draw with the diamonds, and he's got 36% against King 10s to 8-7 cents. So I guess this is kind of sort of a Pro Poker Tools math situation as well, where now you just run the range of hands. And if you think you have fold equity in this spot, which I think he probably does think he's got fold equity in this spot too, then it seems like it's... I mean, I guess the arguments are betting, check calling, check raising. So I think when he checks the flop, checking the turn here is very, very standard. You want to have hands like this. You're going to be check calling these sort of hands on the flop. Like most people see 5-7-3. Why does he check call? Well, as you can see, there's a lot of turns that he picks up a lot of equity on. So let's say the turn is an 8, picks up a gut shot. And if it's a 8 of hearts, 8 of diamonds, 9 of hearts, 9 of diamonds, 10 of hearts, 10 of diamonds. Let's see, queen. Queen doesn't really do much. Well, I mean, it's kind of an interesting spot to think about on the flop, because a lot of times you're going to get barreled off the hand on the turn. So most turn cards you're probably going to get barreled off of. When you check call here on the flop, what does your range of hands looks like? Well, I'm sure that Berri Sweet's not 3-betting super light pre-flop. They are 180 big blinds deep. So it kind of would depend on how often Berri Sweet's been betting in terms of what his range is here and what he thinks that Ansky thinks, and so on and so forth. So, but yeah, I mean, this is just a very, very standard spot in PLO where anytime this board comes out and you're the pre-flop caller after getting 3-bet, you pretty much are just going to bet almost your entire range here, and you're probably going to choose this sort of sizing to bet because it's just very hard to do anything about it in your opponent's position, especially this deep. So I think Berri Sweet feels like he can check call here. Obviously, it's going to be very hard to play a lot of turns, even on a turn like this, 9 of diamonds, which he perceives as one of the best possible turn cards for him. He can still be drawing. I mean, most turn cards he could potentially be drawing dead, and he's going to end up putting a lot of money in on the turn. And he's really never going to be ahead. But I guess this is just a spot where it's just a spot what happens in PLO, where especially 5-card PLO. Is that you got a strong hand pre-flop, you don't want to just check fold the flop, it's just too weak of a play, and what happens is a lot of turns put you in some dicey situations, and that's sort of why PLO has a lot of variance in it, because you end up getting yourself in these dicey situations where you're not always 100% sure how to proceed, and yeah, it certainly gets tricky, and that's why the best players know how to navigate these spots better than the medium players, the middle tier players, even the mid-stakes guys. Mid-stakes guys' frequencies in these spots they're going to under/overestimate their opponent's frequencies in this situation. They're going to be unsure what to do with their own against that, so it's like that's the better players understand how to accurately play these spots, and that's one big thing that separates mid-stakes players from high-stakes players. So in this situation, I think Ansky's play is very fine. Berri Sweet's decision is to check call or check jam. If he check calls, they still have $32,000. Or no, that's not true. No, that's not true. How much did he put in? Put in 4. Up to 7-11. I mean, yeah, they still got a lot of money left to play for. So it's an interesting spot. It's an interesting spot. So they do get all in. They run it twice, and Ansky wins them both, takes down a 70 $6,000 pot, $71,000, $400, $71,400 pot, and but bam, that's our last hand of the video, guys. 9 fun hands. It's good to be back doing the high stakes PLO video. I appreciate anyone who's been watching on Twitch in the shadows. You know, I'm not really. This isn't a commenting video because I'm going to go back and I'm going to edit this video. But if you watched it all, much love. I got to say, you know, big shout out to all the PLO players out there. I've had a lot of conversations with a lot of PLO players at the summer, at the series, messages, and you know, I sort of feel a little bad, to be honest, because there's nothing for PLO players. There's nothing. They don't make anything for us. There's just no content. And I was doing these PLO episodes, and that's like the only PLO content that was really existing. And PLO that's sort of, you know, what I've been doing with my last 4 to 5 years. I've been thinking about PLO all day, every day, and nothing really makes me happier than talking PLO. I just love talking Pot Limit Omaha. So whenever I get guests on, like Phil Galfond, I just talk about PLO nonstop because I've been, you know, I think about it so much. So yeah, I'm planning to do a lot more PLO stuff, and let me know what you guys think. Much love. Shout out to 2+2. Shout out to the High Stakes Red. Shout out to HSPLO. Much love. Let's go edit this motherfucker. I'm out. Peace out. Adios.